with your hosts, Nelson and Chris.
What is up, Mets fans? The Interstate Mets Report is live on our first Tuesday in a long time. We understand that a lot of Mets content creators are going live right now. We understand SNY is going live with David Stearns as well, presumably. So if you don't catch this live, it's okay. You can catch the rerun and talk and listen to everything we have to talk about, because there is a lot of Mets news to go over, a lot of news in general, and a lot of quarrels that I think Nelson and I are going to get off on this live stream. So like I said, before we get into that, make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube channels. It's down in the description below. I feel like I don't even need to play this anymore. You know where to find us. Nelson's YouTube's Average Country Mets Fan, and I am at CPNY Sports. So let's just get into what we've been seeing out of these winter meetings. Obviously, we're going to be talking about this dud of a MLB draft lottery process as well. And we'll get to any of the comments. Anybody joining us, feel free to hit the live chat, comment your thoughts and opinions on anything that we're talking about today, per usual. So, all right, I had, in hopes and high hopes of the Mets not getting screwed, I had put in what the pre-draft odds of each pick percentage was, 1 through 6, for the Mets to not get screwed over. But as you can see, I just decided to say that this MLB draft lotto is a bust, because it was presented in the most stupid layout that I could have ever even imagined the MLB going through with. Basically baiting us in as Mets fans and as collective, the Mets fan base collectively, into thinking that we had a shot of getting into that top 6 and not having any of that pick penalty, dropping 10 spots. The Yankees, the Padres, and the Mets' cards were all there. And then it got down to the top 2, and I heard Guardians, and who was the second? Was it Guardians and Reds, or was it Guardians and
it was the Reds. They jumped up like 13 spots.
Yeah, exactly. And so I heard those two, and I was just like, what am I missing here? And then you see the beat reporters like Joe DeMayo deleting his tweets. I saw you deleted your tweet because I had to delete my tweet too. So everybody was deleting their tweets saying the Mets got into the top 6. So an absolute debacle. As you can see here, the Mets drop out of the top 6. They are penalized by the CBT tax threshold, otherwise known as the luxury tax, in the end, with the payroll being what it was in 2023. I can't say I didn't expect this to happen, but just the way that the live draft lottery process worked, I thought that we had an inkling of a chance, and to no avail. So we got some people up in the house here. That's my sports. Shout out you all. Stevie Max, always in the house. What up, Stevie? Always get screwed. I completely agree with you. And we got Game for War here. They never shaded the Mets' name out. I was yelling happily for a second, thinking we got a top 3 pick, and then I was like, WTF. We were too, Game for War. We were too. So, Nelson, initial thoughts on how this all shook out?
I'm just annoyed. I posted the link to this crap on Twitter. So I hate to call our show crap, but that's the kind of mood I'm in. I basically said I'm in no mood to do this show, but I'm doing it anyway. I'm just annoyed with the way this played out. MLB Network or whoever's in charge of this crap basically baited us by not blacking out the team name when they knew we couldn't get a top pick. They knew Mets fans were actually paying attention to this crap, and they would lose half their viewership if they didn't make it seem like we had a shot. At least that's how I feel. I could be wrong, but it's annoying. It's not so much the fact that we dropped down. Like, we weren't in the top 6, so I kind of expected. I wasn't necessarily expected to get where's the Mets at. It's just right. Like I told you before we started, this is the first time all off season I'm legitimately frustrated. Like, right now, I'm to the point where everything's annoying me. Like, it's just something needs to happen. It doesn't even have to be Mets related. I need some sort of baseball news, because this crap it's a big dud. The draft lotto was a bust. The winter meetings themselves are a bust. Like I'm annoyed with it all.
Everything is a bust. Obviously, we are going to be here talking about the little tidbits of what we got so far over the last couple of days since the winter meetings began. But you'll see on the last slide, like everything else is just absolutely crickets at this point. And like you said, there is no greater insult to injury than no free agent news basically coming out. We have to listen to John Heyman go live on whatever show he goes live on every single day to talk about the same spiels of Otani, Soto, etc. And it's getting
Just repeat the
exhausting.
same
And I
thing
thought
over
that
and
this
over again.
MLB, what was that?
I just said no. They just repeat the same thing over and over
Oh
and
yeah.
over, and nothing new is said. It's like, what are we doing? It's just, it really is frustrating. Like you want to, as an older, a bit older than you, obviously. As an older, getting up there in age baseball fan, like you want to grow the game and make it more exciting, and like you want younger people to like actually want to watch. None of this is interesting. Like the NBA free agency, like people get excited for that. Even the NFL free agency, MLB free agency is just a big waste of everybody's time. Like it's just, I don't know. I'm just insanely frustrated. It's not even necessarily with the Mets themselves. It's just everything. It's just annoying.
It's a huge dud, like you said, because with the NBA, when that free agency kicks off, you have moves within the first 10 to 15 minutes. Like there's guys signing that early and they're not waiting. With the MLB, it's a huge waiting game. And just to sort of like close out the whole MLB lotto spiel, at the end of the day, dropping 10 picks in the draft isn't a huge deal. We're more so annoyed in the fact that the way it happened and sort of baiting us to believe that we had a chance on the screen while watching live, because I was listening in on a space and we were listening to the audio of it. I was with the fellas in the classic space that we're always on, and we all got excited until we heard Guardians and Reds, and we were like, "What the hell is going on?" And so it was like, don't even like let us believe we have a chance if you're going to rip our hearts out like that. And they definitely probably did that intentionally because the NHL and the NBA don't do that in their lottery drafts. And it's not something you can convince me that the MLB is doing just because. So, Game for War saying that he blames Brad Paisley. I mean, that's just so random. I
I
agree for you,
truly,
Game for War. You might as well blame him.
other than the fact that the thing was in Nashville, and I get it, Nashville is the country capital of the world. Why Brad? What was the point of having Brad Paisley? It's the whole thing. I'm just annoyed. I'm annoyed with all of it. I'm so freaking annoyed right now.
Yeah, it makes no sense. We got Matt checking into the stream. He's
I
here for
don't
the hour-long Eric Fedde breakdown. I know that's pretty much what we got after this. Matt, we're gonna be talking about Stearns' comments as well, but I always appreciate Matt. We got to get you up here one of these times. I know we're in contact about potentially doing a little collab here, so good to see you on the stream, and hopefully we get some more news. Like I said, for everybody's sake at this point. So, yeah, like I said, the Mets drop out of the top six. They lose their ninth pick. Obviously, that's where they're slated at before because of CBT luxury tax penalty. They're picking 19th in the 2024 draft. The only silver lining is that I truly believe baseball is one of those sports where you can get a late first round pick that has just as high of an up ceiling or as just as high as a ceiling as a potential top 10 pick. And I know that's some
well,
murky water to like get
it
into and sort of speculate, but I always draw it back to, and I understand that Colin Houck last year drafted for a particular reason, but they did draft him at 32 when he was supposed to be a top, projected top 12 last season. So there are instances of that happening. That's what my only silver lining.
yeah, no, that's exactly. They literally just did it this year with how he was. Most projections had him in the top 5, and we grabbed him obviously way further down. So it's not, MLB draft doesn't necessarily work like NBA and NFL and all that. The top players don't always go the first few picks. But it's just, like I said, like you said, like I said, it's just the way this was all handled, the way they presented it. They just kind of ripped ripped this one from under us, and And yeah, AP is right. The system is just messed up. Like they changed these rules. It's the Cohen. It's because of Steve Cohen. All this is because of Steve Cohen, and it's ridiculous that George Steinbrenner was able to spend all the money he wanted, and not once did they create a fancy rule to curtail his spending and to mess with what the Yankees were doing. Now we get taxed for our payroll. We get taxed for our draft picks. I think international money we get screwed out of in ways too if we spend too much. Like all this is designed to screw over Steve Cohen. Like that basically it. They didn't want a billionaire to come in and be able to just drop his wallet and do whatever he wants. But it is what it is. It's the rules we have to live by. My only hope at this point is that we know how Steve can get angry sometimes, and his anger sometimes leads to him spending. Let's be honest. He did it when Steve Matz ticked him off. He did it last year with the Correa thing. Obviously, that didn't work out. But like when Steve Cohen gets something up his butt, he tends to open up the wallet. So maybe this, in some weird way, becomes a good thing. And maybe this could just be spin zone on my part. I'm fully aware of that. But I gotta try to be positive because it's just frustrating.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think we're all frustrated. AP voicing his frustrations here. Generally lighthearted AP is coming out with full vengeance right now in the chat and with full, you know, it's fully warranted is what I want to say. It's fully warranted. So, definitely AP making good points. That's my sports. No, we didn't go into Woo Suck Go yet. The Shane Sons boys on their podcast did. If I hear anything of the Mets being linked to Woo Suck Go, then I will probably drop something on it, but I have held off on that for right now. But a little crafty reliever. He's a reliever, right? I mean, he's crafty. Like that's pretty much what I can say about him. So I definitely would take a flyer on him. But let's see here. We got some more comments. Lottery seemed corrupt. Why do they have the lotto balls bouncing if they weren't going to use them? The cards had already been placed in order. Yeah, there's just a lot of shady stuff going on in terms of how they presented this whole thing here as well. Honest question. What other sport penalizes teams for trying? Yeah, I mean, I really can't answer that for you. Not really. I mean, the NBA, you pay luxury tax as well, but they don't mess with your draft picks because of it. And I think the MLB, objectively speaking, was coming from at least a good place in terms of not having a team like the Baltimore Orioles consistently tank and end up with a top tier farm system years down the road. And the same thing with maybe like a Royals who might have gotten like a first round pick or first overall pick. So I think they had good intentions with it. But they just didn't execute this in the right way. And I'm not just saying that because the Mets got hosed, but it just didn't seem right.
But those teams still end up in almost just as good a spot, and they don't have to try. Like it's that's what's frustrating is they don't have to try to put any money into their payroll, and there's no repercussion for that. They can just go by and not do anything and screw their fan bases over. And the teams that actually want to like invest money in the product, you get penalized for it. Like the system just sucks. It really does.
Yep. I agree with you. And that's what we'll leave it at. We'll just say that it sucks. It's a bust. And the Mets are now picking 19th in the 2024 draft. So keep an eye out on that when it comes draft season this coming summer. So let's get into some of the comments that we saw. Predominantly Stearns' comments over there. SNY was spitting them out when he was doing an interview. And he had 3 notable comments here, as notable as they can get, because I feel like he's just repeating himself time after time after time again now. And then you obviously see Brian Cashman's comment about Steve Cohen there in the red at the bottom. So let's go top to bottom here. I really do just think that David Stearns he has to pretty much lie through his teeth, but like that's pretty much what's going on here because I don't see how most of this can be true. Like, he's dodging questions and he's not lying for the sake of lying, but he just can't reveal. And the Mets front office MO is one that they're not going to reveal their secrets and what they're up to with the market being so in flux. You look at Yoshinobu Yamamoto clogging everything up. I mean, everyone and their moms in terms of MLB teams knows that if they have money to spend, they're after Yoshinobu Yamamoto. That is 100% a fact all day long. The Red Sox, the Dodgers, if they don't land Ohtani, and that whole situation is a mess within itself. The Giants are rumored to be in on him. Like, the Yankees, like it just never ending merry-go-round. So let's start at the top here, though. In terms of the DH candidates moving forward, David Stearns basically says that he does view Mark Vientos and DJ Stewart as both potential in-house options for the DH spot. Mark Vientos probably, in my mind, is a little bit more feasible in that category, has the higher upside. I truly do think if Mark Vientos gets consistent MLB at bats, obviously the strikeout percentage is always going to be what it's going to be. But he has the upside to get you 25, maybe even a couple more past 25 home runs in this league. I'm not sure if you agree with that notion, Nelson, but I truly believe that. I just don't think and I just can't see how it's in the Mets' best interest to trot Mark Vientos out there in 2024.
Yeah, but first off, I hope Matt isn't trolling. I don't know, but apparently 2 years, 15 million. The national nightmare's over. Mets fans can finally chill out. Eric Fedde is not going to be a New York Met.
It is true. I just saw. Thank you, Matt. Breaking news on the Interstate Mets Report. Definitely appreciate it.
Thank you for breaking some news here on the Interstate Mets Report. Yeah, no, I figured you weren't, but you never know. Everybody, sometimes people like to joke. Yeah, that's whatever. Finally, that's over. As far as the DH thing, listen, I don't see how you can. I just can't see how you can roll out Mark Vientos and DJ Stewart as your DHs. Is there a possibility where, I mean, if they were to just fully invest in pitching, just go all out and spend a ton on pitching and say, listen, we went out and this is how we're doing it. We're going with in-house options on the offensive side. Then maybe I could get behind that. Otherwise, if you're doing this and that's not the strategy, then we really are punting 2024. And I've been wrong the whole time because I've been adamant that I think we're going to try to field a competitive team. But again, I've said this in all my videos. I'll say it time and time again. You got to wait and see. The reactions. Shout out AP in the group chat I'm in. The reactions to the Fedde news last night was over the top. Like, you would have thought the franchise was over. Like, it was bad. And I get it. People are frustrated. People don't want to hear the rumors of these honestly not that great players. And everybody's getting impatient. I understand that. But we have to wait and see. You got to wait. Take a wait and see approach. See what happens before we lose our minds. Even if we had signed them, like, I am choosing to believe there's a master plan here. There's a greater plan in place.
It is.
And we're going to sign better players. But you do have to sign some of these depth pieces. It has to happen. You're not going to sign all-stars at every position. You have to have guys that can be a swing arm in the rotation and in the bullpen. You have to have a sixth starter. You have to have a fifth starter. And those aren't going to be fancy names. They're just not. So I get it. I get the fans' frustration. I'm frustrated. Like, it's not so much in that the Mets aren't doing anything. It's just that nothing's happening. Like, it's just a frustration with the system in general, and the fact that free agency is being held hostage by freaking Shohei Ohtani. And let's face it, Yamamoto as well. Like, teams are waiting to sign for Yamamoto to sign to see what else they can do. And the longer he takes, the longer we're going to sit here and talk about the Eric Feddes of the world. So,
Yeah.
but no, the comments, I don't buy it. Like you said, he's got to go out there and say something to the media. He's not going to give up his plan. The Mets are being very close to the chest with everything that they do this offseason. And it's been kind of the MO since Cohen took over the team. But this offseason in particular, it seems like nothing's getting out. It's just like everything's tight-lipped. Who the heck knows where we are with the Yamamoto thing? It seems like the Yankees are the front runners, but that could all be media BS. I don't know, man, but I truly, I mean, I hope not. Is the last thing I'll say about. I really hope Mark Vientos and DJ Stewart are not what we're trotting out there for the DH next year.
It's smoke, man. It's smoke. I'm gonna continue to say this on my timeline on X. If you don't follow me on X, like I'm gonna link it down in the description down below after this as well. But I keep saying this on X. I keep saying this on here. The Mets fan base is going to be reactionary. We know that, and we've come to expect that now, which is fine. I understand. Really, with the Jose Iglesias signing today, and we'll get into that here in a second, the Mets really have about, I want to say, if I did my math correctly, 7 or 8 more positions to fill out for the 40-man roster, which are presumably, hopefully, going to be via trade or free agency. So we'll see how that rest of the roster is filled out. But I understand that it's dwindling with each of these depth signings of these signings that have a minor league deal with a invitation to spring training. You start to get more and more worried, like how many spots are going to be left until we finally sign that big name free agent. So I'm continuing to be patient. I'm continuing to believe in David Stearns. I know that sounds cliche, but I have to not be naive enough to, not believe that he doesn't know how to do his job and why he's getting paid actual millions of dollars to do his job. Like, I'm just not going to do that. Let's just get this out of the way. I had this graphic up because I wasn't sure if Fedde was going to sign here or not, but we're on the topic of Fedde. And if you didn't see Matt's comment in the live chat, breaking news, Eric Fedde signs with the Chicago White Sox. Last night, the report came out that the finalists for Eric Fedde's services in 2024 was going to be the New York Mets and Chicago White Sox. Initial reports were that he was going to sign a 2-year, $10 million deal with whichever team was the front runner. And you see it now. Jeff Passan just tweeted out, it's actually 2 years, $15 million for Eric Fedde. So $5 million more than what the initial reports were.
Yeah, real quick, I want to shout out my guy, David, for stopping in, saying what's up. Appreciate you, buddy. If you haven't checked out, I can't ever remember his handle, but look up King
like
David.
OOX.
Yeah,
King
it's something
David.
weird, but look him up on X. He's a good follow. He's doing this AI thing where he's making AI avatars for every freaking Met fan he can find, it seems. He's doing a great job with it, so please check him out. He's a good dude. So I appreciate you stopping in, David. And another shout out once again to Matt and the Till Mets Do Us Part, I believe it's called. The podcast. They do a great job as well. Appreciate him stopping in and showing us love as well and dropping that news for us so we could share it with everyone here live. I'm good riddance is what I can say to that too. As David put in his comment. Because let's be honest, I wasn't gonna lose my mind about it, but I wasn't really excited for Eric Fedde to be part of this staff. And he did post like amazing numbers in the KBO, but it is the KBO. So it's whatever. I don't know if you want to jump right into the Taylor news. Obviously, yeah.
I was just gonna say in terms of, well, one, I was gonna say David needs to hop on getting me a little AI thing too. I'm gonna hit him up too because like I know he's left and right. He's making a couple bucks on that, so he needs to hit me up on that too. So with the Fedde news, like I said, it was a potential 6-man kind of deal. If the Mets are gonna go with the 6-man rotation, Eric Fedde would probably be that 6th man. Like you said, rejuvenated his career in the KBO. They have massive pitching lab set up over there. Like, there's people who go to the KBO and reinvigorate themselves and come back to the MLB. And there are some success stories out there in terms of players doing that. That is well documented. You could see his KBO numbers up top versus his MLB career ERA in 6 seasons with the Washington Nationals. It's night and day difference. And there's his arsenal. I'm not losing sleep over it. I just really hope that this doesn't mean the Mets lose out on Eric Fedde and automatically pivot to Lucas Giolito, which are what the next set of reports are going to be. And we'll get into that here in a second. But before we get into Taylor, I actually wanted to just get back into some of David Stearns' comments and go in order here. We addressed the DH situation. I think we all believe that David Stearns is blowing smoke up everyone's butts about this whole DH situation. So that's first and foremost. The second thing that he's blowing smoke with, I should say, is that he thinks, quote unquote, that the Mets can build a competitive pitching staff in a quote unquote variety of different ways when he was directly asked if the Mets need an additional front end of the rotation starter. You could presume that the reporters are asking him about a guy like Montgomery, a guy like Yoshinobu Yamamoto, things of that, or guys like that caliber, not your Lucas Giolitos. And of course, how else is he going to answer this question without revealing the tactics? Like, I completely understand it, but there's no way in my mind that this rotation is set up for success in 2024 if they don't go ahead and get that frontline starter. So, like I said, just a generic answer there in the middle. And I mean, we've been going over our rotation think pieces for quite some time now. I'm not sure if you have any addition onto that, but this is just absolutely generic answers from David Stearns yet again.
Yeah, I mean, this is what he's gonna do. He's got to go out there. He's got to answer the questions. He's got to say, "Shout out Keith." Great content from Keith at Shea and Sons with him and his brother Key. So check them out. Appreciate you joining in. Yeah, Stearns he's gonna say what he's got to say. I mean, he's not wrong. You can put together a competitive pitching staff in a variety of different ways.
Sure.
But let's face it, we need an ace. We need somebody. I mean, Senga in theory could be an ace. Let's not knock Senga either, but I think most of us would much rather have him be that number 2 guy.
Right.
So yeah, we want Yamamoto or Montgomery or what have you in here. I don't think he's an idiot. He knows he needs someone on that level, but he's also can't just give away everything he's doing. Obviously, there is some sort of a bidding war going on here with Yamamoto. A lot of teams involved. Looks like it's going to come down to a battle of Queens and the Bronx, which it would suck if we lose out to the Yankees for this guy. But I mean, I don't think there's a world where we go into the next season with Senga as our number 1 and Quintana as our 2 and some other scrubs.
Severino is the 3.
Yeah. I just don't see it. So he's got to say what he's got to say. I hope I'm not wrong about this. Because listen, as much as I'm preaching patience, if we're sitting here a month to month and a half from now, and this is still where we're at, I am not going to be Mr. Calm, Cool, and Collected and happy-go-lucky. I am going to be frustrated. I am going to voice that frustration. So I just hope that things are going to go the way I expect. I just don't feel like this is the team we're going to field. And I know fans are losing their patience with it, but I just don't think I don't think this is how Stearns is going to handle this offseason. We're going to get better.
Yeah, this is not the end all be all. This is not the end all be all by any stretch of the imagination. I just can't see it going down like that. I mean, I think everyone regards David Stearns highly in this league, but I mean, there is something to be said about his tactics for, with the Milwaukee Brewers. A lot of people speculating whether he's going to really open up that strategy with the pockets of Steve Cohen, and he'd be pretty much dumb not to, right? So I think that we will see moves, and I think that the reactionary sort of just comments that we get on Twitter or X or what have you is just obviously just comes with being in the New York fan base, right? Everyone's going to overreact. Yankees fans do it. Us Mets fans do it. It's just one and the same on that front. But it is going to be a bidding war. And that directly goes into the red comment here from Brian Cashman. Knows all too well, and the league knows that nobody can compete with Steve Cohen at the end of the day in terms of if Steve Cohen wants to open up his pockets for a particular player, he's going to get them. But what was really interesting, I think the most interesting quote for me of this entire series of quotes from David Stearns is that he's still doubling down and tripling down on Pete Alonso being a New York Met come opening day in 2024. And like I said, I don't expect anything less. I don't expect Pete Alonso to go anywhere because there's not really that many packages that I would accept for Pete Alonso. Now, the situation, and we've been singing this tune all season long or all off season long, that the tune of Pete Alonso changes when you start to hear reports saying that contract negotiations are still miles apart. That's when the whole tune of a potential Pete Alonso trade changes. And I'm not saying that that's not still possible this offseason, but as of right now, David Stern seems at surface level confident enough that the deal is going to get done. So do you make anything of him continuing to double and triple down on this comment or not so much just yet?
No, I think he truly believes Pete Alonso is going to be the first baseman next year. If not, he would just give us another generic answer like he does with everything else. Like, he's not giving us that. He could spin this answer any way he wants, but he keeps saying, I expect him to be a Met on opening day. So if he expects to be a Met on opening day, him to be a Met, I believe him. Like, I don't, because he could switch his words around any way he wants to make that a little less concrete, and he's not doing it. So if he truly thought he was going to trade the guy, I don't think that's how he would answer that question. So I feel like Pete's going to be here. Hopefully it's with a contract extension because I've been adamant about the fact that I don't think you can keep him until he hits free agency and then run the risk of losing him and not getting anything in return. That part scares me. But I'm hoping they're still working out things and they're talking and they can figure that out. There's still plenty of time. So yeah, I'm fine with the way he answers this question. I'll take him at face value. I believe it. As far as the other one, you touched on it, I think I don't know if anyone could compete with Steve Cohen by Brian Cashman. I mean, it's a fact. Steve Cohen has more money than anybody else. It's not always about the money. Most of the time it is, but Yamamoto may genuinely rather be a Yankee for whatever freaking reason. I can't imagine wanting to be a Yankee. It makes me sick to think about it. I just, who knows? But I don't know, man. It's just Yamamoto's obviously the biggest fish in the sea right now, other than Shohei, but that's a pipe dream. I really just hope he signs because he's driving me nuts. Just go sign in Toronto already or LA or whatever you're gonna do.
Yeah. And given the way this whole entire MLB Lotto played out tonight, there is something to be said for, and like I just want to play devil's advocate on this front. Like, I don't think it's gonna happen where I don't think Steve Cohen is gonna stop going over that luxury tax threshold, especially this season, because I just don't think that he can afford to do that with the holes on this roster. Like, this season, we're gonna be over the luxury tax again. We all know that. We already are by default. Like, we didn't make any moves and we were already by default over the luxury tax. So it's going to continue to happen. But do you think that the league is in his ear and they put him on notice? Like, they indirectly added him tonight with this whole MLB Lotto saying, we need you to tone it down? Or do you think that this was just by mere coincidence? Because that could also be happening too behind the scenes and we don't know.
No, I think they put him on notice when he bought the team. Like, they stuck him with, he had to have Sandy Alderson here as his right-hand man. The MLB wasn't going to vote him in without it. Then they added this Cohen tax to the collective bargaining agreement. Like, they've been poking him since he got in there. I think at this point, he knows what it is. It isn't going to stop him. He's going to do whatever it takes to make this team a better product. Is there a world where they believe, I hate to use punting, but let's just say it, punting 2024 as an option and then reloading in 2025? It's possible. I still don't see it, but it is possible. It's possible that Stearns and Cohen and whoever else is making decisions got together and they decided, you know what? This isn't the year to go for it. Let's chill, let's pivot. We'll regroup next year. The problem with that is next year's free agent class isn't great. So
It's terrible.
I mean, we're either counting on a lot of these kids that, let's face it, we don't know if they're going to turn into anything, or we're counting on trades or what have you for next offseason. But again, I don't see that being the case. I think the moves are going to come. It's just nobody's making moves. It's not like we're the only ones. Like nothing is happening. Nothing of significance is happening. So until these players start to sign with other teams and we get nobody, then we can have that conversation further. But right now, it's just wait and see. I hate to keep repeating myself, but Yamamoto hasn't signed. Montgomery hasn't signed. Otani hasn't signed. Snell hasn't signed. Hoskins DH option. I know. I feel like that's a little bit of a troll comment from Keith, because if I know Keith well enough, Vientos is not his DH. So yeah, none of the DHs have signed. Like there's tons of players still available. So when these guys start to go other places, then we can have a conversation about whether or not we're tanking. But for now, we're just going to keep talking about Eric Fedde and Jose Iglesias and and stuff of this nature.
Yep, we got Godfather Tank in the house here. Says, love how Cohen and the Mets get penalized for spending money, but John Fisher screws over an entire fan base and refuses to spend, but no one bats an eye. Yeah, like we completely agree with this sentiment. We started off the top of the show saying how much of a bust this was, and just how poorly the MLB handled this compared to the other lotteries that we see in the NHL and NBA. This just doesn't compare. So, and like objectively speaking too, not just because the Mets got hosed, like the MLB has serious work to do in terms of refining this. But I just want to make sure we shout out the chat, shout out Godfather Tank for tuning in. Shout out Matt for tuning in. If you haven't checked out the Till Mets Do Us Part podcast, make sure you go ahead and do so as well. Matt is a co-host on that with his other co-host John. Keith here, our boy. Shay and Sons podcast. They just did a phenomenal live stream last night with Anthony from Subway to Shay. Go check that out on their channel, Shay and Sons podcast, YouTube, X, all that good stuff. Shout out you all for tuning into the chat. We got Ron in the house as well. Says he has a feeling that Cashman is going to convince Soto to extend without a problem. And that quote, in terms of what Boris is saying, we won't extend stance, may go out the window if the Yankees give him a truckload. Ron, I've been saying this the entire time about Juan Soto. This is the reason why I kept stressing, and I hate to be that guy because no one's agreed with me on this point as of yet. Ron might be the only person that's attended this show and basically has agreed and verbatim basically agrees with my sentiment. This is exactly, if I had to say anything about Juan Soto, this is what I'm worrying about. That he will not hit the 2025 free agency class if the Yankees do end up getting him. I'm not worried about Toronto. I'm not worried about the Mariners if they swoop in. I'm worried about the Yankees. And what Boris is saying is smoke. That's why I want the Mets to take a flyer on him. That's all I'm saying is a flyer. Don't give up top prospects if you don't have to. If the Yankees are unwilling to budge with their top prospects, swoop in. If the Blue Jays don't, this is all I'm saying. And I think that you have to take this with a grain of salt, but you also have to realize that this is also a possibility at the very minimum. I know that the Yankees and Soto talks have stalled, but if they were to re-engage and pull the trigger on a Juan Soto deal, this is a very real possibility that we do not see Juan Soto on the open market at all. Not even 2025. That's all I had. Like, thank you, Ron. I appreciate it. Shout out you tuning in. that I agree with you 100%. Nelson, anything that you got to say on that?
No, because I'm honestly tired of talking about Juan Soto. I just don't see. To me, he's not going to be a Met regardless this season. So if he goes to the Yankees and extends, that's going to suck. But it is what it is. I just don't see the Mets trading for Juan Soto. I don't see it. I could see him if he gets to free agency. We will be involved in those conversations. Trading for him, I just don't see it. I don't think Stearns has the stomach to trade what it's gonna have to trade to get this guy. He wants to keep most of our prospects, and I don't blame him. So Stearns or Cashman can do whatever he wants to do and get Soto, or we'll see. But I'm just tired of talking about Juan Soto.
Ron, you had me there with the previous comment, and then you lost me about trading Lindor. I don't that first of all, that's not a possibility with his contract. I highly doubt it. There's probably only a handful of teams that
He's
will
on the
take him,
we're
but
tanking this year train. I don't still don't see it. I'm not ready to go there yet. We'll see.
Yep.
Give me a month and a half, and then we'll talk about it.
Sure. Give me World Series MVP Soler for DH. Yeah, Soler is a guy that can get you those 35 home runs behind Pete. Will bat 230 for you, 240, but at this point, that's all you really need behind Pete. With that home run production, World Series MVP. Soler was absolutely phenomenal for the Braves in 2021, and he's not going to command a 3-4 year deal. He's going to probably sign a 1 or 2 year deal because at this point, Soler is becoming kind of a journeyman. Even though he was an all-star last year in 2023, I just don't see him getting that long-term deal right now. So maybe it's like 2 years with an opt-out or 3 years with an opt-out, somewhere in between, but he's not going to command a 4-year deal a la Starling Marte when we signed him back in that offseason where we signed Marte in. So that's my take on Soler. I completely agree with the boys from That's Sports.
Soler's a
Yeah, go ahead.
decent option. It's just the problem with Soler is he's not consistent.
Yeah.
Last year he was very good. The year prior he was very bad. 2021 it was okay. But not exactly great either. He's just an up and down guy. He strikes out a fair amount, but not as much as like a Teoscar Hernandez who strikes out a ton.
Yep.
So yeah, if you're going, I mean, you look at his stat line last year: 250, 36 homers, 75 ribbies, 853 OPS. That's way better than any production we got out of DH. So I would not argue with Soler being our DH. I've said it before. I like Teoscar Hernandez. Rhys Hoskins is another guy. I like Rhys Hoskins just because he not only provides you a DH option, but he can, depending on what happens with Pete and everything, or if Pete gets hurt, he's a guy that you can fill in there at first base as well. So
yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Absolutely. Some of these comments are starting to flow in here. That must mean David Stearns is done talking over on SNY as soon as we got some more people in the so, like I said, make sure you subscribe to both channels in the description down below, both Amish Country Mets Fan and at CPNY Sports down in the description. Thoroughly appreciate the support. First and foremost, get Nelson to 300 subscribers on YouTube. So go ahead down below, hit that thumbs up and hit that subscribe button as well. Verducci is saying, Matt saying, Verducci saying that the Ohtani sweepstakes is down to the Dodgers and Jays. I did see that it was reported that Ohtani did meet with the Dodgers in Dodger Stadium a couple days ago as well. So the talks over there seem to be serious. I can't see any world where Ohtani picks the Jays over the Dodgers, to be honest with you. So if I had to guess, the Dodgers are probably front runners. I heard the Cubs' name tossed out there a little bit, but I'm not sure if they're really in on
about that real quick though.
Sure, go ahead.
I was watching MLB Network during this whole drafts saga and everything. They did point out something that was interesting. It may not mean anything, but I guess the Blue Jays stadium is very similar to the stadium that Ohtani played in when he was in Japan.
Sure.
They also mentioned the fact that Ohtani likes a controlled environment. So a dome is a controlled environment. I mean, LA is as well. It's pretty much always sunny and warm there, but that makes sense in the sense that if he likes that kind of thing, the Jays having a legitimate shot here. I mean, it's possible, but if you ask me, he just feels like a Dodger to me. He has this whole time, to be honest. Um, my only hope is if that's the case, then maybe the Dodgers have been linked to Yamamoto as well. Maybe they kind of fall back on that a little bit because Yamamoto is a guy I think the Mets can get. Ohtani is a guy I don't think we were ever going to get. So I'm not going to be upset if he signs with either one of those two teams. I just didn't want him in the NL East. That was basically my thing with Ohtani.
No, yeah, I agree with that. Like I said, he does feel like a Dodger, so we'll see. But I do hear you on the whole dome situation in terms of Ohtani and being comfortable playing in that sort of environment for a stadium. Meezy's in the house, basically saying that he's not sure Stearns wants to pay big dollar for a DH, was definitely certainly possible. Soler turned down $6 million option with the Marlins to hit the free agent market. I can't fathom that he's going to get much more than $13 million a year on this open market. So that is certainly a name that would be on a cheap deal, short-term deal, and that definitely is feasible for the Mets. Absolutely. Vientos we got some Vientos backing here. I think he can hit 25 to 30 home runs as well in a good year. I just don't see it happening in 2024. I don't think the Mets the PR team is going to have a real struggle with that in terms of this Mets fan base if they do trot out Vientos to be that everyday DH. Like I said, we all are expecting on this podcast with the Interstate Mets Report, and I'm pretty sure everybody in the chat here is expecting the Mets to be competitive in 2024. Like I said, we're not saying that there's no possibility that the Mets are going to tank in 2024 in terms of sending out a little bit of a punt team and maybe not going after those big fish in the pond and prioritizing 2025, but I just don't think it's likely. And if that's not likely and we're saying that, then I don't see Vientos being the DH. That's just all I'll say. We got Subway to Shea, Anthony in the chat, the Eric Fedde saga is over. Absolutely. We saw the breaking news, Anthony.
The only thing I'm sad about is that means no Fedde Walk.
No Fetty Wap. No Fetty Wap. We have that in the title. There's no Fetty Wap, but that's okay. Fetty Wap can go over to Chicago and have a grand old time for 2 years, $15 million deal over there with the 5.41 ERA in the MLB. That's perfectly fine to me. Shout out Anthony from Subway to Shea. Basically saying Keith Iglesias is a great move for the bench. Look at those stats. We'll talk about Jose Iglesias here in the next slide as well. We did not forget about him. Obviously, the most recent Mets signing. Go check out Subway to Shea. Great live stream with the Shea and Sons boys last night. Go check that out if you haven't already. The chat was popping last night. Shout out to you all putting on a great show. We got Talking Mets with Rob in the house. Just had a stream himself. Go check out Talking Mets with Rob if you have not before. Subscribe to his channel. Does some great content. We're on the Mets Roundtable. We did the Mets Roundtable yesterday, so shout out them. A lot of great Mets content creators. Can we take a second, Nelson, and just kind of sit here and just admire all the Mets content creators that are in this community and that we've gotten a chance to meet over the last couple months since we started doing this? Shea and Son, Subway to Shea, Talking Mets with Rob, Mets Talk with Hayden, all those guys. That's my sports. Shout out everybody. Definitely appreciate everyone tapping in, subscribing, and checking out our content as well as the rest of everybody. So, yeah, Rob, absolutely, 100%. 100%.
It's a solid point. Great people, and it's nice that everybody shows each other support. We saw everybody in the Subway to Shea and Son's show last night. Everybody was in there talking. Looks like a lot of the same people were here tonight. Appreciate all of you that are. Appreciate everyone that hopped over with Rob. I know Rob had a show right before this. Everybody's doing their thing. Everybody's doing their shows. We're going to overlap sometimes. It happens. But you can always – the nice thing about YouTube is you can always go back and catch what you missed live and watch it at a later date. So I'm sure I'll go back and watch Rob's show, and I appreciate him jumping in after he was done. And it looks like I see some of his peoples in here, so it looks like he sent them our way. So I appreciate that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Good to have all these people here. Shout out Stoney. I see you out there. He says hi. So yeah, no, great. It's a great community. It's nice to get perspective from guys like us and not just Andy Martino and John Heyman and these guys just repeating the same junk. And it's nice to see other content creators out here making noise.
Yeah, if you didn't get a chance to tune into our stream from the top of the show, make sure you watch that. We talked about how bad the MLB lottery was. We can't stress that enough. If you missed that, go ahead and check that out. We just talked about these comments here on your screen. We broke the Eric Fedde to the White Sox news, 2 years, $15 million. So there's no Fedde WAP to the Mets. We'll see. There's some Giolito reports. We'll talk about Lucas Giolito here in a second, but let's get into who do you want to talk about? You want to talk about Michael A. Taylor or Jose Iglesias first? I'm gonna let you choose, Nelson.
I don't think we really need to. I mean, the Michael A. Taylor thing's whatever. We're looking for an outfielder. He's an option. Let's talk about somebody we actually signed.
Sounds good. Let's do it. Let's do it. So we got Jose Iglesias here. The Mets signed at this point, journeyman shortstop Jose Iglesias to a minor league deal with a contract invitation to spring training. You can see Iglesias in the major leagues. Wasn't in the major leagues last season. I believe he spent his time in the Padres farm system. He hit over 300 last season in the minor leagues, so that's of note as well. But his most recent stint in the major leagues was in 2022 with Colorado. He's played all over with Detroit, with Boston, etc. I can go on and on and on with who he's played with. So in 22 with Colorado, he hit 292. That jumps out at me. OPS was low. OBP, what it is, 3 home runs, is not a power hitter. We keep stressing the importance of power. And Jose Iglesias is not that, but it's nice little depth, especially as a utility man, for lack of a better term. We signed Joey Wendell to be a utility man, and we'll see what happens with the upside of Jose Iglesias to see what the Mets really think of him come spring training. And we're going to see a lot of him in spring training as well. 47 RBIs to go along with that 2022 campaign in Colorado as well. Your initial thoughts and opinions, like everyone, like we just said, this Mets fandom on Twitter was having a hoopla with this signing as well. Obviously, Subway to Shea Anthony pointing out that the stats really are better than what you would expect from sort of a low-key kind of signing like this, a minor league kind of contract. Obviously, a vet, a journeyman. What do you assess this signing as, Nelson, at face value?
Just another depth move. And I know that, listen, the fans are going to keep losing it when we keep making these kind of moves because nothing else is happening. Everybody wants to see a big name. So anytime we get another one of these guys, we're going to get people cracking jokes and saying their thing. I highly doubt we see Jose Iglesias in Major League Baseball for the New York Mets next season. I'm just going to say that. Yeah, he had a nice year in 2022. He's getting up. He'll be 30, 33, 34 this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, back when he was in Boston and Detroit, I mean, he was an all-star back in 2015, but those days are long gone. It's a nice guy to have in case somebody gets hurt, in case Joey Wendell has issues or something like that. He's never been a big hitter. That average is about as high as you're going to get from him. He doesn't hit for power. He's always been a slick fielder. Some tells me at this point he's not as good a fielder now that he's getting up in age, but he's a valuable guy. He can play different positions. Is what it is. It's obviously not gonna. It's nothing that's gonna make or break the Mets season, but like I see Rob said, depth does win you more games than people think, and having guys like this stashed in the minors can be beneficial. He's a vet. He knows Major League Baseball. He could probably help kids maybe fielding. Like that could be a beneficial thing to have a veteran guy out there helping the younger kids too, even if it is just in spring training. If they can learn something in the field from this guy like that, people don't see. I don't think people think about that enough. Like just sometimes having guys like that, veteran presence that know the game way more than some of these young cats that we have, like that can help these players. Like even if they don't stick around, like just working with a guy for 2 months and them teaching you things that maybe you didn't know, like that can help. So it's fine with me.
Yeah, and we saw it with Eduardo Escobar when he really took Mark Vientos under his wing. I mean, it didn't translate to Mark Vientos's, I guess, defensive performance at third base, but at the very minimum, you saw the relationship that those two were establishing prior to Eduardo Escobar, leaving via trade to the Angels. So definitely, absolutely a great point there. Could have a little bit of a profound impact to these young guys, especially if, like we just talked about with the Stearns comment about in-house DH options, if the Mets really are not blowing smoke and David Stearns is serious with that comment that Vientos is going to have a large role on this team in 2024, this kind of signing could mean all the world for the 2024 Mets. We just never know, and you can't assess the value or the long-term value in terms of the 2024 season, up front with this kind of signing. So like I said, a proven veteran, and like you said, a proven veteran with this, nothing that's going to really wow you, but like Rob said in the chat here, depth wins you games. And I'm not saying that Jose Iglesias is going to win you a bunch of ball games in 2024, but the depth pieces that we've seen so far in the bullpen definitely might. You strike gold with a guy like Austin Adams, Cole Sulser, or who's the other guy? Kyle Crick. You might have a potential gem in the early goings of the bullpen. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to happen. Like, these guys are all experimental type guys. That's why they have minor league deals. Their stuff is there, but they have to figure it out. But taking flyers on these guys is not a bad thing whatsoever in my mind.
No, not at all. And you know what the most important part of all these little signings is? We get to see more MLB The Show reaction videos from Keith. Like, those things are fire. And I need to see one for Jose. I think he's behind. I feel like he's behind on a couple. So I need to see these videos. Keith, I don't know if you're still out there, but somebody out there knows Keith. Make sure he knows. I'm expecting a Jose Iglesias video. I don't care if you have to pull out the 2022 MLB The Show. I know he was upset about that he might have to pull it out for Eric Fedde. Well, you have to pull it out for Jose Iglesias. So bring it out. Let's see the scouting report on this guy.
Absolutely. Those videos are gold. I always see them on X from Keith as well. He did one on Crick and he did one on Cooper Hummel as well. Cooper Hummel actually liked mine and his comment when he dropped that. So no, great stuff. Like I said, not really much to report on the Jose Iglesias front, but like I said, with this signing, in terms of filling out the 40-man roster, the New York Mets now have about 7 or 8 positions left to fill for the 40-man roster by the time spring training arrives. So we would hope that from now on, the depth pieces are going to sort of fizzle their way out. The Mets got what depth they deem necessary, and we start to pivot to those bigger name free agents, the bigger name trades, perhaps, if the Mets are going to be active in the trade market. And we hope that's how the rest of the 40-man fills out. So, like I said, I understand Mets getting nervous. Rightfully so, about 7 positions left to fill in the 40-man, but let's have some patience as well on that front. Like I said, nothing else to report on Jose Iglesias. Let's get into some of the other sort of news and tidbits that we've seen, which really isn't much. We saw that Michael A. Taylor, we already reported on Eric Fedde. We saw that Michael A. Taylor might be linked to the Mets. We'll keep an eye out on how the Mets choose to fill in that left hand or left field spot. Presumably it's going to be open. We'll keep an eye on Jeff McNeil, what his status is with the New York Mets moving forward in terms of the recent Young Hoo Lee reports as well. A lot of options that the Mets can take. Obviously, Michael A. Taylor is not a starter in MLB, and we're not going to be talking about him that much, more of a depth piece in the outfield. So let's keep an eye out on that. We won't be going too much into Michael A. Taylor, but like I said, it wouldn't be a bad signing, but it'd be another depth signing. And we just talked about 7 positions being left on the 40-man, and it would be down to 6 at that point. So it's like, how far are the Mets really willing to go with that? So some other news and rumors and tidbits. The Mets are interested in Giolito. We could talk about that here. Obviously, the Braves, the last time we went live was last week. The Braves, in the meantime, landing ex-Met Jared Kelenic. Obviously, Brody Van Wagenen officially winning that trade in the Robinson Cano and Edwin Diaz deal. Respect Brody Van Wagenen for that. But, Kelenic does find his way back into the NL East with the Atlanta Braves. So everything else has been pretty much crickets on all the other fronts because of Shohei Ohtani and because of Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I'm surprised other pitchers like Jordan Montgomery and Erod and Snell aren't just saying, you know what? Listen, they can get their bag. I get that they could be used as leverage, especially Blake Snell expecting a bigger deal, maybe waiting on a Yamamoto to sign. I understand that, but Erod's not going to get in excess of $100 million. Like, that's just not going to happen. He's going to sign a 4-year, 5-year deal max around, if I had to project, anywhere between 85 to $95 million. Nothing more, nothing less. Where do you assess this market? Are there any other news and rumors to report? Like I said, make sure all hitting that thumbs up, hit the live chat with your comments and opinions. I'm going to get to some of the comments up here in a second after I let you go, Nelson. And we'll just get into that before we close out today's show. So what do you have, Nelson?
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing. Like, to me, none of this is big news. The Mets are obviously apparently looking for an outfielder. I would hope that Jung Hoo Lee's the guy we go out to rather than Michael Taylor. If we do both, that's fine with me too. I wouldn't mind. We talked about the pitcher, go whatever his name. I forget his name. The Korean reliever. He's actually Ho Lee's brother-in-law. So we could get a package deal there. If we could get a package deal there and get the brothers-in-law both playing for the Mets, I'm good with that. Other than that, I don't want to talk about Kalenic. Screw him. He's not a Met. I don't care. We're gonna have to hear about it enough during the season. Giolito, you know my thoughts.
I don't want Giolito, man.
I'm not a Giolito guy. Is Giolito better than Eric Fedde? Sure. Like, if we want to talk about something, spin it in a positive light. There's that, but he's also probably going to cost a lot more. Giolito. He's an innings eater. I'll give him that. But I don't want him. I really don't. That's money better spent somewhere else, in my opinion. So other than that, like your little graphic says, it's crickets, man. Hopefully Ohtani finally figures out what the heck he's doing. I saw MBZ say I thought Ohtani didn't like leaks. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. Maybe now that he's dwindled it down to 2 teams, he doesn't care. I don't know. It's just I just want it to be over. I want the Ohtani saga to be over. Once I think we pretty much early on were both on the same boat that I think back when he got hurt, when he lost his ability to pitch, we were basically like, I don't think he's going to be a Met, because I think the Mets valued that two-way player, and the fact that you're not going to get that for a year kind of sucks. And that's a lot of money to pay for a DH. So I think we were out on that anyway. So it is what it is. Hopefully we get more news. We got what, tomorrow and Thursday? Thursday's the end of the winter meetings, right? I believe so. Yeah, I think the Rule 5 draft is that day, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe we get something out of that. But yeah, man, it's not a lot to talk about, which really sucks, because I think we were all excited for the winter meetings and hoping that we'd have tons to talk about. And our biggest news has really been the fact that the Mets got screwed out in that whole little draft situation, and Eric Fedde news that for something that didn't even happen. So there was a total meltdown and nothing happened there. So it's just
well, I just don't understand why they don't make the foreign ball players as window postings earlier, because they got 40 days or 45 days to sign from when they're posted, right? And they're getting posted at just a few days before the winter meetings. I know Young Hooli was posted the day of the winter meetings when it started on Monday. So I don't understand why they just don't push that upward to kind of force the action of free agency to sort of roll a little bit, quicker. That doesn't make too much sense to me, because right now the MLB, like you said at the top of the show, the MLB is fumbling the bag right now in terms of getting the excitement back into the game. There's no games being played, minus some maybe winter league action that we've been seeing as of recent. There's no games being played in the MLB. Ohtani is the biggest free agent on the market, and he doesn't want any sort of leaks to happen. You just fumbled the bag with the MLB lottery draft. This is a terrible offseason look for the MLB, no matter how you want to spin it or shake it. It's absolutely terrible. So I honestly and genuinely don't know how the MLB fixes it, but come the next couple of off seasons, I would like to see that be fixed, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think they will. I'm no fan of Rob Manfred, and I just think he's horrible for the game. I think he's not growing the game in the ways that he really should be. And Jake Peavy on MLB Network made a great point. Like the fact that this Ohtani thing is so hush hush, and there's no like excitement behind it, and everybody's just kind of over it right now. Like that's not what you want. You want when your biggest star is a free agent. Like there should be like some juice behind this, and there's nothing. And maybe it's the fact that it's his personality. It's the same issue we have with Mike Trout. Mike Trout was a stud in this league, and he's got no real juice. I mean, I grew up in the Ken Griffey Jr. era. This guy was a star. This guy like was a face of like video games. He was in Nike ads. Like you just don't see that with these guys. Like it's just weird, man. It was just I just wish they were better at promoting the game. I hate it. It's just boring. I don't blame kids for saying that baseball is boring because the game itself is fun. It's great to watch, but you got to be able to pull these people in. You got to get them to watch the games, and none of this. The way the offseason plays out, the way free agency plays out, none of this is exciting enough to get people into the game, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah. And like Steve was saying in the chat, it's going to pick up. And once those big names decide to sort of, get it together and take some offers, and maybe let some beat reporters do their job and get some scoops. I don't know. I mean, something, maybe it'll start to pick up. Rob was basically saying that December should be the month for all free agents to sign. November's non-tender deadline, QO and ARB salaries. I agree. That's one way to do it as well. There just has to be something. You know what I mean? There has to be something. A couple of other comments before that I want to get up to while scrolling in the chat. Sox will trade him if he does well. Mets could still get him later. The White Sox, I'm not sure why they would make that signing if they're quote unquote a team that's open to trading anybody, right? We talk about Dylan Cease trades and nobody's off limits for the White Sox. So why are they signing a reliever for 2 years, $15 million deal? I have no idea, but that remains to be seen what happens there. Let's see here. Instead of trying to score in Lindor and Nimmo, Soto would just try to get a walk, putting all the stress on Alonso. Soto does walk a lot, but I'm not going to say that that's his whole game. That's ridiculous. Game for War. Shout out though you for tuning in here. I think we got everything here. Now that I'm catching up on the comments here, I think we're good. Yeah, man. Nelson, anything else before we get out of here? This is a nice little over hour show. Just wanted to get something. I think we might start going back live on Tuesdays if we have the necessary news and means to do so. Obviously, I'm out of town this Friday, so TBD on a Friday Interstate Mets show. We will let you all know. Follow us on X for updates on that. None of the debate.
If you can't do Friday, I'm putting this out there in the universe. If you can't do Friday, if anybody out there wants to join me, I'm thinking of doing a night one though. I might do it at nighttime. So hit me up if you can. We actually have an email. I'm pretty sure it's Interstate. Well, I'm gonna look this up.
Even if I do join, we can still have a guest up here. We're trying to get guests up here. And what we can do? We can toss the StreamYard link in the comment section and people can just come up and join and we'll see them join at the bottom and we'll let you get your take off. So we can start doing that too.
Well, hit me up, Interstate Mets Report at gmail.com if you're interested. If for some reason CP can't go on Friday, we'll talk and discuss, but maybe we'll do a little random late, like a Friday night little show, nothing crazy. Sure. Hopefully there's some news to talk about. Like that's pretty much where we're at. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Let's go Knicks. I haven't been too much in the NBA so far, but apparently we're still in this freaking play-in tournament thing, whatever's going on. So let's go Knicks. I'm gonna tune into that. And yeah, man, thank you everybody. Hopefully we get some news, some exciting news soon. And talk to you guys later.
Yeah, absolutely. The Knicks do play. I'm going to be tuning in. I'm going to be going live on the channel to do a post game with my boy Ari for the Knicks game. So tune into that if you are sick of the MLB winter meetings. I'll be talking some basketball after the Knicks game. Follow us on Interstate Mets on X. You know where to find us. You know where to find Nelson on YouTube. Amish Country Mets fan. It's in the description. You all, if you have not subscribed to either of our channels, if you're new here or are only subscribed to one of us, subscribe to both of us down below. Like I said, Nelson, get Nelson to 300 there. You know where to find me at CPNY Sports. This has been the Interstate Mets Report. A little bit of a Tuesday edition. We're going to try to go Tuesdays and Fridays, but we've only been doing Fridays for the last couple of weeks. So I appreciate everyone tuning in. Let's go Mets. And if there's any breaking news, tap the notifications button because you never know when we might just go live to break some news and talk about a signing or trade that the Mets do. So tap the notifications, subscribe to the channel, and subscribe to all the other Mets content creators that you saw in the chat tonight. We'll be doing a lot of collabs. Hopefully we can get those to work out. And then we'll also be going live, impromptu, no notice, breaking news when we get it. So appreciate it. Shout out everybody. Consistently listen to the Interstate Mets Report. This has been another episode, and Nelson just threw the Interstate Mets Report email in the chat for Friday's session. If you want to join, hit Nelson up for that as well. It's your boy CP with my boy Nelson. We are out. We'll catch you all on the next show. Peace.
Thank you for watching the Interstate Mets Report. Streaming Tuesdays at 5 p.m. and Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to @Amish Country Mets Fan and